Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Today's topic is spiritual contentment and Karmayoga. Well, when you visit San Francisco Vedanta Society or Lima on certain occasions, you find people cooking, serving, lifting the chairs, cleaning the hall here. And if you have the privilege of going to Lima every year in the month of April, you can find some 89-year-old ladies and gentlemen climbing the ladder to fix the tent, to fix the electrical gadgets, video systems. People driving all the way from Sunnyvale, Santos and beyond, sometimes coming from other states of the United States, coming all the way, frequently giving up or maybe giving a low priority to their own domestic obligations, coming here, doing all this work. From one perspective, you may call it a kind of craziness. That's if you ask the common persons who are not interested in spiritual life, who judge whatever he or she does on the basis of so many dollars that you can get out of that. They will consider this as totally, absolutely meaningless. There is a funny statement in Sanskrit. It is certainly not a very, it's not a statement of wisdom, but it just gives you an idea into the true nature, the psychology of what I was talking about. Prayojanam anuddisya na mantopi pravartate. Manda means dull-witted, morons, you may call idiots, low IQ. So even morons and low-witted people, unintelligent people, do not do anything without a motive. That is the meaning of the statement. It's a common statement, piece of empirical worldly wisdom. But on the other hand, you find all the great things in this world, all the great lasting contributions to science and technology even, not only to civilization and culture, were made by men and women who did things, who spoke things, who worked hard in their life without expecting any kind of reward. They got reward. Look at Jesus Christ. He went on growing after crucifixion. Look at Buddha, becoming more popular more than 2,500 years after his passing away. So do you think they are not getting the rewards? But they did not seek those rewards. On the other hand, those who work hard with a definite, visible, tangible motive and purpose, they get it, but they'll be forgotten, and what they get also will be forgotten. And what they get now will be lost tomorrow. So today's satisfaction becomes a prelude to tomorrow's dilemma or depression. So you find, on the one hand, all the great lasting contributions to human civilization, philosophy, theology, mysticism, were made by men and women in all cultures, in all traditions, all over the world, by men and women who work in their life, who did things in their life without expecting any reward. Well, look at one of the greatest men this country has produced, I'm talking about Emerson. Now, if Emerson was an ultra-pragmatist, you won't get a poem like Brahma, or Thoreau, or even Lincoln, who was a wise man and politician rolled into one. So you find in all spheres of life, all great activities, all great contributions were made by men and women who worked and who did things without expecting any reward. Well, Karmayoga, in its simple translation in English, means action without any expectation of any kind of reward or remuneration or any visible, tangible expectation. That's what Karmayoga means. Now, how do we manage to do all this? When we do certain things without expecting a reward, it produces something in our mental system. Well, if you just draw a check, for example, as an act of charity to help people suffering from earthquakes, tsunamis, AIDS, Ebola victims, and all this, there are many unfortunate things happening all over the world, diseases, natural calamities, victims of war, violence, insurgency, and so on. So when you draw a check for a $50, let us say, if that's what you can afford, well, when you send that check and you sit quiet on a chair, you find, well, I have done something which I should have done. In Sanskrit language, in Vedantic terminology, there are three interesting terms. One is kritakrityada, that means a natural sense of contentment that you feel within the depths of your heart when you have done something which you feel is the right thing for you to do. It is called kritakrityada, the natural contentment that we feel in the depths of our heart when we do something which we feel we ought to have done, or even when you speak something, a few kind, compassionate words, helpful words, to bring out the hiding Atman within every individual, the hiding divine reality present everywhere. A few words of encouragement, a few noble words of compassion. When you do that, you feel, well, I have spoken, I have done certain things that's wonderful. That reward is your private property. Nobody knows about it. It is something that we all feel within ourselves. That's why all these devotees, they come and cook and serve and struggle. They are getting something very precious, which a billionaire may not get. A billionaire piling up trillions of dollars in the bank may need maybe half a dozen pills for getting 2 hours sleep. What's the fun of that kind of life? But people who do all these things, when they do these noble deeds, they feel a great inner contentment. And that's very precious. That's what makes life worth living. That's what everyone is seeking, actually. When people take drinks, they're actually looking for it. They're running away from the tormenting realities around. When people take drugs, they want to run away from themselves. They are trying to run away from the torture, the torment of everyday realities. And also, there are people who do even much more undesirable things. To run away from something. Of course, they are knocking at the wrong doors. Because these methods will only cause for these problems to come back with a vengeance after some time. You are postponing a dilemma which will come back to you with a greater potency and destructive power. Now, Vedanta presents before you a very, very wonderful psychological and philosophical idea. That is, do I can give the example, I can explain this in the light of the evolution of karma in the Bhagavad Gita. In fact, Karmayoga as such originated in the minds of Lord Krishna. Karmayoga as a philosophical and psychological mechanism for spiritual life is the unique contribution of Bhagavad Gita. Karmayoga was practiced by great men and women from prehistorical times. But as a well-structured, a compact, philosophical and psychological ideal and message, it comes from the Bhagavad Gita. So there is a gradual evolution of our approach to karma, approach to action. Now, the word action is frequently the English translation of the Sanskrit word karma. But actually, it goes far beyond what action means in English language. Karma means any kind of activity, mental activity, a thought, a flash of ideas that appears in our mental system, an emotion, a physical action, of course, a word that you speak, a thought. All these come under the realm of the word karma. Anything that leaves behind some impact or impression is karma. A word, if you speak, when you speak a good, noble word, it leaves behind a noble impression, a noble mental residue. So also a thought, an idea, or a deed, of course. So there are 4 approaches to action. In the Gita, the first message that Lord Krishna gives to Arjuna is not Karma Yoga. Because Arjuna was a lazy, deluded, ignorant, and a bit self-conceited man who was proud of his wisdom, but he was speaking words of total, absolute nonsense. That's the funny part of Arjuna. Krishna calls, the wonderful word that Krishna uses to call Arjuna, hypocrite. Karmendriyani samyamya ya astaya manasasmaran indriyarthan vimudhatma mithyacharaha sauchyate. Mithyachara means a person who is a hypocrite, a totally ignorant person trying to behave like an Aristotle is an example of mithyachara. That was what Arjuna was. He was afraid of work, of his duty, and was afraid of the consequences of his work. But then he didn't want to tell Krishna, I am afraid. He thought it was beneath his dignity. So he gave a long philosophical exposition of the merit of inaction. And Krishna was not a man to be fooled. So Krishna first told him, a person who does some kind of activity, even a selfish activity, is far better than a hypocrite who is totally lazy and deluded and talks in the language of an Aristotle or a Shankaracharya. He is a hypocrite. So Lord Krishna first tells Arjuna, do your work. I'm sure you cannot do your work without a selfish motive. Okay, fine. It's far better to try to be a Henry Ford or a Rockefeller than trying to be inactive and trying to philosophize, to giving a philosophical justification for your inaction, which actually the result of your ignorance or delusion or wrong interpretation of the dynamics of karma. So Krishna tells him, be active. So the lowest level is inaction, nidra alasya pramadoktam tat tamasam udakritam. What it means is, Lord Krishna says, inaction out of laziness is the lowest level of karma. Total absence of any kind of karma. That is the most degraded condition. The second higher stage is action with desire. So Krishna first tells him, give up this idiocy, this conflict, this delusion, this ignorance, and this self-conceit and self-justification of your own ignorance. So first, do something. Maybe you may be the most selfish man in the world, but do something. Because that action will open the door to doing something without selfishness. See, if you want to go to Harvard, you should begin by going to kindergarten. You can't straight away go to Harvard. And then you do very well in the kindergarten, you may go to primary school, maybe city college. Later, if you do very well, you may end up at Harvard. You can't straight away go there. So Lord Krishna tells him, give up your laziness in action and do something meaningful, something that is appropriate for your status and position. The third stage is Karmayoga. So once you become proficient, efficient, active, in the true sense of the word, what you call professionalism, punctuality, success orientation, business orientation, or you look for results, that sort of thing, common in modern times. You'll be fully established in that. After getting fully established in efficiency, professionalism, enthusiasm, with desire, with selfish motive perhaps, you evolve, graduate to the next stage of evolution, that is the same efficiency, the same professionalism minus selfishness. That is Karmayoga. So Karmayoga comes only as a third stage of evolution, human evolution. The fourth stage you find in the lives of great spiritual teachers. Maybe you find in Ramakrishna or Vivekananda or Christ or Buddha, all the great spiritual teachers, they worked hard, but they didn't bother about any result, any selfish purpose for themselves. So working without any selfish motive, working without any personal profit, with any expectation, becomes their nature. They are naturally, spontaneously, by their very inherent nature, they do good things for others without expecting any result. They are not practicing it. That's their natural, inherent nature. It's called Karmayoga Nishtha. See, the 4 levels of karma in the Bhagavad Gita. Now, frequently, some people would tell you, well, I would practice Karma Yoga. And so, Swami Vivekananda frequently insisted on this. Without some degree of material success, good education, or whatever it is, you have no right to speak of the emptiness or the defects of modern education. So that's a natural evolution. So anyway, so I'm coming to the subject. That last stage which I mentioned, which is found in the great spiritual teachers of the world, that's mentioned in the Gita, karmanya karmaya pasyet akarmani cha karmayaka sabuddhiman manusheshu sayukta krishna karma krita. It's a very high paradigm of human life. What it means is, you are always active, but it becomes your natural, spontaneous character to be always doing good things without expecting any result. So, even while being engaged in action, in doing good work, in doing your duty all the time without any selfish motive, you don't feel you are doing anything. So you are able to see inaction in action. Means, and also you are able to see action in action. So both are the same. Because the action-inaction equation is transcended, where a person naturally gets established in doing whatever he is doing it without any selfish purpose. But this is a very high level which is found in all the great spiritual teachers of the world. It is not, they are not practicing it, that's their true nature. They can't, even if they try, they cannot do anything with a selfish motive. Whatever they do happens to be the highest form of karma yoga without any selfish motive. It is the highest state. Lord Krishna makes a very interesting statement with the true insight of a psychologist. He says, don't tell a person to practice karma yoga on a fine morning. Na buddhivedam janayed ajnanam karma sanginam. Suppose your children are working hard for high grades. You tell them, you work, don't expect high grades. You should not do that. See the psychological insight. Persons who are working very hard without any kind of laziness or indifference, with great application, enthusiasm. I must get highest grade. I must have the highest success. That person, if you tell that person, tomorrow onwards you should practice karma yoga, you know what happens? He is used to doing things with a definite purpose and motive. He can't work without a definite plan in mind. So he channels his energy, his time, his resources in one direction. Success, effective action, and result. So his activities linked to a definite purpose and goal. If such a person suddenly, even tomorrow onwards I shall work without any purpose, his mind becomes blank, becomes vacuum. He will descend to the lowest level of confusion. So Lord Krishna says, this karma yoga is something that we should gradually move towards. We should gradually achieve. When you are really practicing karma yoga, you can ask your own mind. You don't have to ask. When we actually practice karma yoga, even if the results are not up to the expectation, we won't feel any discouragement. We won't feel any disappointment. Because the very fact of doing something unselfish, something without any selfish purpose for ourselves, it produces its own result. That result is contentment. So when you have contentment from doing something, then you won't worry, you are not disappointed. You will not be disappointed if your work doesn't produce the expected result. You may be working hard for getting the result, no doubts. But if the results if sometimes happen to be negative, you may feel, oh, very, very unfortunate. But it won't shatter your mind. It won't shake your conviction. It won't make you depressed. That is the main proof that whether we are actually fit for practicing karma yoga or not. So if you ask devotees, not only here, in any Christian church or synagogue, Buddhist, wherever you find, people coming forward. So, I was told by some visitors that, not only here but in Europe, many countries, people who are above 70 years, they will register for voluntary work. No, why don't you go somewhere and have a good time? Instead of that, you register with the hospital, airport sometimes. We have some devotees, 85 years, working as a volunteer in the airport. Frequently, the passengers will scold this man. Because if the flight is delayed, he will be blamed. The passengers will scold him. But this man is not affected. So why is he continuing this kind of thing? He's not crazy. But doing that kind of work, he's deriving something that is called contentment. So contentment is something that we experience, we cannot explain. People who are on the other side of 90 years sometimes, medical practitioners, continuing practice. Why? So you find this happening. Maybe they are not consciously practicing, well, I'm doing karma yoga. I don't think so. If you ask them about karma yoga, I've never heard of such a thing. But they're practicing it. How do you know they're practicing it? By doing that, they feel quite happy. A kind of inner serenity, inner peace, that is called contentment. So karma yoga invariably produces contentment. And one unique aspect of this karma yoga is you don't have to believe in God even. It can be interpreted and it can be explained purely in the light of modern psychology. You don't need the help of a God to be a karma yogi. Of course, if you believe in God, it's very helpful, no doubt. Remember, I am not professing atheism or agnosticism. Don't mistake that. I am talking about the universality, the universal application of this ideal of karma yoga. Buddha, maybe one of the greatest, if not the greatest, karma yogi of all times. He didn't believe in God. He didn't talk about God. He didn't preach you should go to a place and worship and pray to God. He didn't say that. But he showed by his example, perhaps arguably the most well-known karma yogi of all times, Buddha, agnostic he was. Not an atheist, as many people wrongly try to interpret, of course. So that is what happens. Karma yoga naturally produces in our mind something that expresses as a kind of inner peace, contentment. Well, I have done what I ought to have done. That is called kritakrityada in Sanskrit. There is another word, kritarthada. That's a higher level. Well, I have attained something which I should have tried to attain, which I was trying to attain. What is that attainment? Discontentment in its most intense, in its most profound aspect is this kritarthata. Well, such people will have a strong conviction. Well, I'm doing the right thing. This is not possible for anyone who does an evil deed, who speaks an evil word, who tries to hurt others. There are many people, scourges of humanity. They said, I'm working for the country, to make my country great, the greatest country in the world, to make my country the most powerful country in the world, to make my religion the most wonderful religion in the world. So that is not karma yoga. It is a kind of, a kind of elevated form of fanaticism. One aspect of karma yoga is it broadens our outlook. It produces a natural compassion and understanding in our interaction, in our behavior, in our relationship with others. When it produces this contentment within, that contentment expresses in our interaction with others in the form of compassion, broad-mindedness, and in the field of religion, multiculturalism, universalism, and so on. At the philosophical level in Vedanta, there is a very interesting aspect to this karma yoga. This karma yoga, when you practice, it helps you to look upon the vagaries of our experiences. It will enable you to take setbacks, disappointments, unexpected tragedies in our stride. I shall try to explain this. When we do certain things out of a strong conviction that this is the thing that I should do for my own good and also for the good of others, it should not be for our own good. It should be for the good of others. When this happens, frequently we won't find it a very easy path. You may go on working hard for doing good for a person, and that person turns out to be a renegade. He becomes ungrateful. Instead of reciprocating help from you, he turns out to be your enemy. This frequently happens. So if it's, the logic of mathematics and physics doesn't work in real life. In mathematics, 2 plus 2 is always 4. It cannot be 5 or 3. In physics also. Or in chemistry, if you put together the chemicals, the result will be identical in identical conditions, identical experiments in identical laboratories will produce identical result. So it is more or less predictable. But in life, there is a kind of unpredictability, uncertainty, which frequently disturbs the balance of our life and also of our thinking. As I mentioned, people who go on working hard for others without any selfish motive frequently end up being at the receiving end of unexpected, undesirable reactions. You help a person, that person turns out to be ungrateful. He becomes your enemy also, it could happen. Now, when you practice Karma Yoga, you are able to take these things in your stride. Because Karma Yoga helps you to focus your mind on some absolute, unchanging, fundamental reality and to look upon all other things as part of the changing phenomenal reality. This is actually a contribution of Advaita Vedanta, Shankaracharya's philosophy. Shankaracharya tells you that God in his highest definition, or the absolute reality in its highest dimension, is one all-pervading, omnipresent, immanent truth, present everywhere, present in everything. It is unchanging. It is to be realized in our own life and experience, and it is not a doctrine or a dogma to be imposed upon somebody or to be believed in. This is the contribution of Advaita. This Advaita tells you there are different levels of reality, but in the context of Karma Yoga, when you practice Karma Yoga and when you do not get the expected result, and when you get the opposite result frequently, how do you react? How do you observe the unexpected setbacks and unexpected results? You'll be shocked when the person whom you helped turns out to be your enemy. So there is that's why the logic of mathematics doesn't work here. You help that person. If the logic of mathematics is applied or science is applied, that person should reciprocate in the same manner. It doesn't happen. So Vedanta tells you to look upon all these experiences as part of the changing experiences. You cannot and should not expect perfection from this imperfect, changing, phenomenal world. It is called empirical reality. This is a piece of Vedantic metaphysics which I am presenting before you. That is the real philosophical background of Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga can be interpreted as some kind of a simple, superficial, psychological remedy for depression and anxiety. That will be an insult to Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga has a profound philosophical doctrine behind it. That's what I am going to present before you. Shankaracharya says, when we practice Karma Yoga, it enables you to look and interpret all the unexpected or undesirable reactions and experiences as part of the changing phenomenal world. This world is not absolutely real. It is certainly not absolutely unreal. But it is changing. It is phenomenal. It is empirical. So, all that undesirable reactions we may have to face in the practice of a spiritual seeker, practicing Karma Yoga, you are able to observe the shock well, all these are natural in this imperfect world. Immediately the problem is gone. And that is the contribution of Advaita. So when you think of the absolute reality, which is unchanging, which in Vedanta is called Brahman, in monotheistic tradition you can call God, no problem. That's perfectly okay. That's perfectly logical. But the point is, all the other experiences that happen in these everyday life situations, you are able to observe, well, it is natural. You can't expect perfection in this imperfect world. You can't expect good things in this world, which is actually a combination of good and bad things. It is not totality of all that is good or the totality of all that is bad. It is a combination of both. So this view, or looking upon the empirical as a relative, changing, phenomenal entity, is a great contribution of Advaita Vedanta. So what happens is, on the one hand, it produces its own result in the form of a sense of inner contentment. The contentment can express, well, I have done what I should have done. You know, this actually is it has a great effect in our mental system. If you judge your action exclusively on the basis of its visible results and consequences, then we are lost. Because we can never be sure that our action will guarantee the expected result. Even if you work hard and if you apply all available tools of attaining perfection in whatever we are doing, still there is every chance, and in 90% of the cases happens, there will be always one fragment of imperfection or incompleteness in the result. See, we can program a computer, but we cannot program our mind. And mental thoughts, ideas, and impressions will influence our actions. You can make a perfect machine, which may work faster than the mind, perhaps, but you cannot program the mind which produces the machine. So mind is totally unpredictable. Mental energy, mental resources are totally unpredictable. But if you channelize mental or intellectual energy, physical energy that we express in words, thoughts, and ideas in one direction, then those energy resources become creative and constructive. And Karma Yoga is the most natural channel that will help us to direct our physical and intellectual and psychological energy resources into a creative channel, a constructive channel. Frequently, people are not able to achieve the success they want because they are not able to focus their mind completely into anything, because the mind is scattered. But the moment you try to practice Karma Yoga, then distraction and dissipation of mental energy can be radically reduced, because, well, I am doing what best I can do, and you try your best. So, and again, if the result is only 99% perfect, complete, 1% imperfect, you are not shattered. But if you are a utilitarian or a pragmatistic, then you are gone. So that is the psychological benefit of practicing Karma Yoga. In the Gita, Lord Krishna actually he tries to analyze the psychology of a Karma Yogi who is engaged in different various kinds of duties and responsibilities, and an ordinary person who is also active but not interested in Karma Yoga. On the one hand, there is one person who is very active, very enthusiastic, and very efficient, but trying to practice Karmayoga. On the other hand, let us say his brother is equally active, equally efficient, the same education, but doesn't believe in Karmayoga. He is fully attached to what he is doing and he thinks he can attain whatever he wants. Both are equal in all their efficiency, their enthusiasm, their professionalism, and all these qualities, organizational skill or leadership skills. So, Saktaha Karmanya Vidvamso Yatha Kurvandi Bharata Kuridyan Vidwan Tatha Asaktaha Chigi Shuku Loka Sangram. This is the verse. Lord Krishna says, on the one hand, the younger brother, let us say, who is attached, selfish, focused, efficient, and taking pills for anxiety and depression and sleep. That's one side. His elder brother is also equally successful, but he is able to sleep peacefully every day without pills. Lord Krishna says, the first one, the younger brother, is an example of efficiency in action minus Karma-yoga ideal. Because he becomes attached. He thinks, I am doing this, so I should get 100% result. If I get only 99.9% result, everything is lost. So I should get 100% result. 100% result is impossible except in a laboratory. In human mind, 100% is an impossibility because human mind doesn't function that way. So a person who believes I am doing this, I should enjoy the results of all the actions I am doing. That person, he may be very successful, apparently, very efficient, of course, but is a mental, a psychological wreck or a moral wreck. Because people who become extremely successful without a spiritual ideal will have one Achilles heel. And that Achilles heel frequently expresses in the form of drug addiction, alcoholism, perversion, or greed, or all kinds of undesirable things. Extreme success without some spiritual ideal will leave behind an Achilles heel, something in your system that becomes a cancer, which expresses in the form of discontentment, depression, or it could also express in the form of extreme greed, extreme ambition that becomes self-destructive. So Lord Krishna is actually presenting before you a unique mechanism of combining the success, the efficiency of a Bill Gates and the serenity, the peace of mind of a saint or a philosopher. That particular term is used in the Gita. Gita is the first text in the world that is 3,000 years before Plato was born, philosopher king. More than 3,000 years before Republic was written, Lord Krishna says, the 4th chapter of Gita, the word is Rajarshi. Rajarshi, Raja means king. Rishi means sage or sage, philosopher. Now what is the characteristic of a philosopher? A philosopher is able to look beyond, is able to see beyond the empirical. He's able to make a lot of wealth, attaining great success, but he's also able to see the limitation of that kind of success. We are able to look beyond it. So this transcendental vision, the ability to see the limitation of success, the ability to see the limitation of success, the limitation of material wealth and achievements, at the same time making use of them. That is the characteristic of a Rajarshi. So these two words are interpreted by great Sanskrit commentators of Gita in their own unique language. There is a reason why I am quoting. First of all, I was trained in this way. Secondly, if I don't quote this, you may think, this is some idea from some modern management books. We have borrowed all this from Gita and other books. All the pep talk going on, if you attend a session by paying $500, and if you, the same thing when you listen, something very wonderful, magnificent. But this idea comes from Bhagavad Gita, which I want you to remember. That's why I'm quoting these verses. In the 4th chapter of Gita, there is this great verse. Lord Krishna says, Imam vivasude yogam proktava naham avyam vivasvanamanave paha manu riksha gaya abravit evam parampara praptam imam rajashyo vidhu yak sakalena ekamahada yogo nashta parantava. The Karma Yoga, its origin, its evolution, and how it came to our own times, all explained in this verse. Lord Krishna says this great ideal of Karma Yoga in ancient times was taught by God to great sages. He says Aham means as God. And as a tradition, as a succession, this ideal of Karma Yoga has come down to our times. And what is the Karma Yoga? It is the essence of what people normally try to explain, of course, without any reference to Bhagavad Gita or Lord Krishna in their own management pep talks. What Lord Krishna says this, Rajashi, Rajatvam Aishwarya Sambhati, Rishitvam Tasyaha Sukshmartha Darsana Kshamatvam. This is the commentary by Shankarananda Saraswati on Shankaracharya's Bhashya. You know what it means? Rajatvam Aishwarya Sambhati means, what is the position of a king? Splendor, wealth, power, achievement, success, professionalism, efficiency. These are the characteristics associated with ancient monarchs. So all that is best and highest and grandest in material world. That is Rajatvam. That corresponds to the status position of a king or administrator. What is Rishitvam? Rishi is a sage who is sitting in a cave with his eyes closed. In the Mahabharata literature, many of the saints were retired kings. So there were no novices, remember, in this art of combining both. Buddha, maybe the most well-known sage in modern times, in America at least, he was a retired king. In retire means he was a prince, he didn't want to be declared the next heir apparent, he ran away from his palace. And this man became a saint. Can we say that he was totally a novice in administration? He had the best of it. So there are many people. I tell you one interesting thing. A professor in America, a well-known reputed professor in America once told me, you see Swamiji, from India many youngsters come. And when I tell them about these great teachings of Bhagavad Gita, they are very proud to tell me they are totally ignorant of all this. Then he used to tell, you should know your own culture, your own tradition, the wealth and the unique wealth and treasure that is your heritage. Every nation, America has its own heritage, every nation has its own heritage. So this Karma Yoga ideal is one of the unique contributions of Bhagavad Gita. Rishitvam is the ability to understand the limitation of the need and also the limitation of material wealth, material success. So if you can combine both, you find many great captains of industry who have made enormous success in business. Later on, they evolve further. Then they start foundations and trusts and start doing work for the good of others. They start charitable trusts, foundations, to help people suffering from various countries comparatively third world countries, backward nations. Now, this is actually a kind of Rajashi ideal. I mean, if you can have wealth, have the best of this modern science and technology, success and splendor and everything, at the same time have the wisdom to handle this wealth properly. And that wisdom comes from the realization of its limitation. Limit means the end. Science and technology we need, but we should also know their limitation, the limitation of their results. So this unique combination of this unique ideal, that is the combination of efficiency, the best of modern science and technology, the best of modern, I would say to be more precise, modern Western paradigm of life, which has its own glory and greatness, and the ability to understand its limitation. Because once you understand its limitation, you become wise enough to handle it properly. Otherwise, science and technology can be a great blessing for us, but it can also be a great curse for us. So, the ability to understand the true meaning and dynamics of material wealth and the wisdom to handle that success properly. That is Rishitvam, that means the contemplative attitude, the transcendental vision to see the limitation of all this. This is the unique message of Karmayoga. So Karmayoga, philosophically, it combines this unique wisdom. All these things that you see in the world, including the biggest company and the biggest bank and the most successful, all these things will come and go. There is something higher. This philosophical idea, plus the idea that in your actual life, you have to combine the best of the modern, the best of the fruits of science and technology, and also this unique transcendental wisdom. This wisdom comes out of not only understanding it, but understanding its limitation. Once you understand its limitation, then you are able to handle it properly. Otherwise, it will handle you. That's a problem. Success can handle you. You become a tool in the hands of success. We can become tools in the hands of material science and technology, wealth. And the result is there for everyone to see. So, in order to be able to handle properly, to avoid being handled by material success, we need this transcendental vision. That is what is signified by the word Rishitvam. Rishi means the one who sees far into the reality. That's the real meaning. The one who sees, experiences the limit of everything. That means the one who has a transcendental vision. Plus, we cannot run away from the realities of everyday life. We need everything. People need work hard. Success, all necessary, but also we should understand its limitations. So Karma Yoga on the one hand, its most direct, visible effect is you feel very happy when we feel we have done something which we should have done, which you ought to have done, without any expectation, without any publicity. It produces its own result, this inner contentment in our own private mental world. And this contentment propels us to go forward. See, unless you get an encouragement, an incentive, you cannot go forward. So when we do certain things, feel an inner peace and contentment. And that takes us slowly towards our spiritual ideal. So that is why Karma Yoga makes our mind pure in traditional Vedanta. And once our mind becomes pure, what happens? Then the reality of God, the reality of the spiritual goal becomes a matter of daily experience. It's not a doctrine any longer, it becomes daily experience. So that is the psychological mystery of Karma Yoga. Anyone who does even the most ordinary good deed, to begin with, even if you do it with a selfish motive, that's certainly better than doing nothing. You know, there's some mistaken ideas. A funny story is there. A teacher told his student, please bring me a glass of water. He was feeling thirsty. The student told him, well, I won't bring you a glass of water, because if I bring you a glass of water, I should be proud. So I won't give you. So the teacher died of thirst. So very often we feel, oh, I will become egoistic, so I won't do anything worth doing, So that is absolutely stupid. So it's because our ego, whatever you mean by that ego, first needs a kind of refinement. Give a promotion to our ego. Ego can be made a wonderful friend of ours. Ego can become our friend. Ego is some kind of it's a power. It's an energy that can be handled properly, that can be utilized, made proper use of for doing good things. And then gradually that ego will become sublimated. Then Karmayoga becomes simple. So first we must try to do something good and noble. Even if we cannot do that without a selfish motive, then with a selfish motive we should do something good. That's first step. With a selfish motive, well, I am a great philanthropist, so I shall give $1 million. That's wonderful. That's better than greedy fellows who won't do anything for any good for anyone in the world. Next stage, the same person you find, after some years, he'll be secretly doing wonderful things without any publicity. So this, mind evolves, ego evolves, ego gets promoted stage by stage. That is, Karmayoga is something that's an open door. It's a royal highway. Anyone at any time can start practicing. It's a kindergarten that is open all the time. We can enter. And once we enter, we are sure we'll end up being at Harvard or Stanford. Because once we enter the flow of Karmayoga, then it will take you gradually forward. So doing something noble, good, in any tradition, even without believing in God, one can do that. That is, spirituality transcends religion in the conventional sense of the word. That's the idea. Religion, the highest true sense, means manifestation of divinity already in all of us. That's the real definition, Vivekananda. But what I mean to say, this Karmayoga is an open door, which anyone can enter. We can just start making use of whatever resources we have for the good of for our own good and for the good of others. Thank you. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Pranamastu.